While Joe Biden's trying to put Donald Trump in prison and his Praetorian Guard media are celebrating, he's also trying to destroy the government in Israel simultaneously and take out Benjamin Netanyahu. There's a piece in JNS by Carolyn Glick. The war rages in the Gaza Strip, northern Israel, Lebanon, Eilat, and on the streets of Israel, cities as Iran's Palestinian, Lebanese, Syrian, Iraqi, and Yemeni proxies maintain and escalate their operations against the Jewish state. Unmoved by this state of affairs, Israel's far left is reinstating the anti-government riots that occurred regularly for the first 3 quarters of 2023. She goes on later, to be sure, there are a number of reasons this is happening, but perhaps the main one was revealed on March 17 by riot leader, the head rioter, Ami Dror, in a WhatsApp group chat with his colleagues. The communication, which Dror authenticated in an interview with Channel 14, was reported on X, Twitter, by a poster who operates under the handle Arabello Tuna Hunter. Stick with me. In that communication, Dror, the head rioter, told his colleagues that the White House was asking them to reinstate the riots. Based on what he referred to as a conversation with his contacts in the White House, Dror set out in granular detail the White House's 4-part plan to overthrow the Netanyahu government. The components involved actions on the ground in Gaza, the use of the UN Security Council, extortion of government ministers in the Netanyahu government, and mass protests. Dror called his report an important update from the American administration. He explained that his update followed an earlier text he sent out on March 6 on the same topic. Quote, "The American plan as I published it on March 6 remains unchanged. The day after my publication, the Biden administration announced the establishment of an American port in Gaza that will seize from Israel the ability to rule the Strip. The port will be used initially to provide food, but the central purpose of the port is to rebuild Gaza. The purpose of the U.S. campaign for humanitarian aid," he explained, was twofold: undermining the control of the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza and blackmailing government ministers. Well, Netanyahu's chief political rival is Gantz. Gantz was summoned to Washington a few weeks ago, and he went because they want to replace Netanyahu with Gantz. So this guy, Dror, the head rioter, he said Gantz was summoned to the United States for a reprimand. He was humiliated. The Americans said hair-raising things to him. At the start of the war, the Americans demanded that he join the government. He was their man, the man that would ensure that Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir didn't set the world on fire. He came in, he blocked the war in Lebanon, promised that he was going in for 6 weeks, and then he and the protest groups would take the government apart. After 6 weeks, he and Dori promised that by January 1, they would deliver the goods, and in practice, the final deadline the Americans gave him was Ramadan. In other words, overthrow Netanyahu by Ramadan. When he didn't deliver for the U.S., the administration understood that they can't trust Gantz. Maybe he'll be a comfortable prime minister in the future, but the Americans seized full control over management of the war against Netanyahu. And guess what? Gantz announced last week that in September he wants a new election or he's out of the government. And there's other articles on this in Breitbart by our friend Joel Pollack, what's taking place. So Joe Biden is trying to put Donald Trump in prison on multiple fronts so he can win the presidency without a real challenge. And simultaneously, he's trying to drive Netanyahu from office, and he is involved in promoting a civil war in the state of Israel. And now you can understand why he says the things he says, why he funds the organizations he funds. Evil, diabolical, Joe Biden destroying 2 democracies at the same time.